Deepening it further is Dr. Nansata Yakubu. She is a political scientist in her own right, so great lecturer, the advocate as well for a lot of policy implementation, gender balance, and then also her colleague who practices his profession as a senior political science lecturer with the department at the University of Ghana, Dr. Ali Duseidu, also helping us. Look, this will help us transition into the bigger conversation about the Vice President of the Republic with the town hall meeting that was also convened, and all the things that we talked about, that the Vice President says was 17,000. Or is it 1,700 projects had been undertaken so far? So we'll see how it goes. But let me start with you by welcoming you, Dr. Nansata Yakubu. Hello, can you hear me?
Good morning, Roland. I can hear you.
Yeah, great wonder. Dr. Ali Duseidu, can you hear me as well? Dr. Seidu? Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm mute. Okay.
Good morning, Roland. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, great. I'll start with my intelligence lecturer there, female, because, you know, these days we're advocating more female participation in all spheres of our society. Again, let me clarify. The government says it has initiated 17,000. Yeah, got it right first time, wrong the second time. 17,334 infrastructural projects since its assumption of office in 2017. Now, I would want you to have some brief comments made on, one, how important are, let's say, town hall meetings, such venues for communicating the achievements or the efforts by way of policy interventions of government in this era? Let me start with you, Dr. Nansata Yakubu.
Yeah, town hall meetings are effective political communication tools, you know. It helps you to be able to align what you have set out to achieve in a very coherent manner, to try to remain consistent and to be able to establish a certain credibility about issues that might be disputed in the public domain or indeed by your political opponents. So it's like a one tool that you can employ to be able to communicate effectively. It has its own advantages and what we would call disadvantages. On the advantages, you can try to get the media. You can leverage on media participation to be able to reach a wider audience. And indeed, in a time like this, when getting on the road might be difficult, especially if you are in government, then it means that it's an effective tool that you can utilize. The media can help. You might be able to mainstream in different languages because the issues get taken, and translated, and everybody can get to hear it. However, there are also spaces that might be close to you, because remember, it's not everybody who is invested in watching TV or even listening to radio. So there are limits, to what you can do. I just have to also know that, yes, I was just saying that at the same time, it sometimes goes to just validate what your base would want, as in those in your party are the people you speak to more, maybe than those who are already not really invested in any political party. Because as for your opponents, they will definitely not, be invested, into believing what you are presenting. But then your base, it goes to validate and maybe cement some of their initial doubts or clarify the position of the party in a bigger way. So it's a political comms tool that you can use to achieve a lot. Yeah.
Now, Dr. Seidu, I see that particularly until now, well, many people did not know that the projects that have been undertaken by the government numbered 17,304. Now, if you juxtapose that with the period of the NDC administration, by the close of 2016, because after they lost, the communication was that they didn't really articulate or communicate directly what the projects were, even though they could be seen. In this instance, we don't see more physical projects, even though prior to now, we hadn't seen more physical projects until recently. And now we're being told these are the numbers. So my question directly is, which one is good? You seeing the projects or you being told that these are the projects?
Okay, thank you so much, Roland. I think you need both in most instances. One, you see the town hall meetings, I just wanted to add to my senior colleague's submission. You see, they can serve two major purposes. It is a good governance tool, a tool for enhancing good governance by deepening transparency and accountability, but it is also a tool for political communication. In the first instance, the element of transparency comes in when government is able to tell people what they have done and then provide an opportunity for people to verify what they have said by creating a link so that people can actually go and verify what they have said and contest it. But it also serves as a little bit of, and then also sometimes the cost. The government is able to tell you how much money is involved and whether there's cost-benefit analysis prior to embarking the project and whether state resources have been saved in that regard. So when you become more transparent, it deepens the ability of the people to hold you to account so that you'll be able to interrogate the figures and then the projects that you have put there and see whether they actually work very well. So it's a very good mechanism for deepening good governance, but it is also a political communication tool. There is a tendency that political parties can use this forum to propagate a specific political agenda aimed at getting the electorate to vote for them or validate their achievement in government. If you are talking about infrastructure, I understand that we have hard infrastructure, but also have soft infrastructure. The soft infrastructure usually are not visible. They can usually be investment in maybe telecommunication equipment, it could be investment in internet data, it could be investment in any other things, many things that can enhance the livelihood of the people. But when we are talking about hard infrastructure, these are things that are visible to the ordinary eye of the person. And when politicians tell you that I have been able to do this, I have been able to do that, then you, the local person who live in that community, is not able to see those things. Or maybe you have seen them, but the state at which it was told that it has advanced to, it's not like that. Then you can match your local knowledge and experience about that project to what is being delivered at the national level. But it also may occur in several typologies, whether you are connecting at the local level. So we have micro level infrastructural development that are tailored to meet the day-to-day basic needs of the people, including water, including sanitation, including health facilities, including toilets and all those things that connect directly to the personal livelihoods and needs of the people at the grassroots level. But we also have macro level infrastructure that are usually at the national level that enhance in connecting people, movement of people, that leads to production and general the development of the economy. So when about 17,000 plus projects are set to have been like this particular, still too early. Now this was done last night. It's still too early for people to be able to verify whether these projects actually have been executed or they are ongoing. One, whether they actually exist, but two, whether the state at which the government say it existed is actually the case. So I still think we need a little bit of time to digest, to interrogate, and to unpack these huge numbers that has been thrown to us last night. Then based on that, there will be more open up space for contestation. But this is not the first time we've had this. You see, the NDC has also came out and talked about projects that has been done, and they also created a link. The MPP did similar in the past. And we also know civil society bodies like Imani Ghana have also done a ranking of this government in terms of achievement of its campaign promises and has scored them at the level of infrastructure. And what I think it was around, was it 46.something% achievement broadly in infrastructure, including both soft, hard, and then also micro and macro level kind of infrastructure. So I still think it is too early since this particular town hall meeting was delivered for us to actually accept all the the things that was said by the vice president last night. We still have to interrogate, unpack, and verify them. And at the end of the day, we should be able to make a close assessment to the reality, what was told to us last night.
Now, there is a considerable aspect of what has been said that, in the opinion of many, means that the rest of the electioneering period is going to be issue-based. Do you also get the same inclination, Dr. Yakubu?
Rightly so, Roland. I think if you know all our earlier conversations, we've been calling on political parties to keep you to the issues, because I think that is what Ghanaians are looking for, and then we can move away from the basis for insults and all that. But you know, the politicians always capitalize on a lot of issues that is in the public domain. And you have to also realize that campaigning is at different levels. So whilst the base might be interested in some of these issues where you would have insults going to and fro, at the middle level and at a high level, they need to then concentrate on the issues, because that is where you are going to be able to articulate your message and a manifesto, if indeed you are looking for election to be re-elected or to be elected again, to become the new president or to be retained as the president, as the case may be for the two political parties. So we are saying that in keeping with issues, we need to see these kinds of debate. Now, to stay on the issue of whether there's a soft or hard infrastructure and how we can interrogate the number of projects, I think to a large extent, we have to leave the barometer for measuring these records to the electorate, because in everybody's constituency, in a district, in a region, we have seen, you know, projects that have been communicated as either in motion, being completed, or near completion, and stuff like that. So we would have to know that it will be the base that will be able to verify, you know, this. If you sit in Accra and then you listen in on a conference of this sort, sometimes it's very difficult to start unpacking. But if indeed the message gets out there, everybody in their community can say that, look, I believe this or I don't believe this. So indeed, in the next couple of days, we will start seeing a comeback on these issues, either to validate, to dissent, to protest, to whatever. And then it will be an opportunity for us to be able, for those of us who are doing political watches and polling and all that, to be able to assess to what extent the numbers that have been put out there. However, I wanted to talk about the effectiveness, you know, itself of putting out these kind of numbers. Unfortunately for us, we have, in a way, introduced a council culture on what people have achieved into our body politics. And I'm sure Dr. Alidu will tell. In 2016, the NDC even had a whole book, you know, that was called the Green Book. They ran adverts on it, and it was said to be Photoshop. They come out and there were these very humorous adverts about whether it's Photoshop, whether it's not Photoshop, you know, things like that. And for some reason, perception was a political marketing tool that was used to cancel it. We had a cancel culture of people saying, we don't eat infrastructure, we don't eat roads, we don't eat. So that in itself was a precedent that has not helped us, you know, in being open to these kind of conversations. So for some reason, there's a very apathetic level actually of people being interested in this kind of debates. Because if you come, like Roland, you rightly said, you come and tell us, you know, if we as the electorate and as citizens, as not an opportunity for us to be able to ask, you know, questions for our area. We kind of typically are used to the town hall meetings where somebody comes there with his goat, right? You remember President Foster, somebody came with a goat to come and ask for things for to go and rear goats and all that. We had these very interesting. So at that low level of town hall meeting, issues that are critical to people, you know, are what are discussed. At this particular town hall meeting, as we say, it's a political comes to tell us this is what we have done and leave it there, and then we now go out and do it. So I said that once it gets to the basic, it gets to the constituencies and the districts and all that, that is where the opportunity to interrogate. But at this level, the council culture that was established in 2016, a lot of people are already identifying, you know, with that. And don't also forget that we have a very short electioneering period. It's August now. We are voting December 7th. So there are a lot of things that are already happening with the current trends of issues. And sometimes these very long opportunities to tell us things that we don't really believe goes back to the 3 C's issues, that we're talking about, the issues of consistency, the issue of coherence, and the issue of credibility. And for a lot of people, hard infrastructure is actually what gets to the core. I can tell you, if you hold a town hall meeting and you only dwell on system strengthening, for instance, there was one about ports, outlining the port issue. We are all still witnesses to the big fallout from the port issue. So you get a lot of people to become a bit, defensive. But most people actually, because they are used to hard infrastructure, that is why already you can see people, saying, oh, what was this? How was it given? And things like that. So hard infrastructure, I think, is the basis for which political comms hit hard. And then you can add the other ones to leverage. That is not to dismiss any kind of infrastructure. But I tell you, if you show people 10 buildings and then show them 50 systems and procedures in a run up to an election, we are going to have them going along with the 10 buildings. So to what extent was this the right messaging to reach the target audience that Dr. Bawumia wanted to reach? To what extent was this an effective political comms? As Ali said, we are watching and we are hoping that by Friday we will see, some of these issues coming up for more discussions.
Now, Dr. Saidu, 2016, there was this refrain, Aquina Yebedi. Is it infrastructure? It be infrastructure we go chop. Now, I know that it was part of the refrain. You see, sometimes you have to counter the political communication of the opponents with the other. But how do we then try to put the issues on the banner if that is now the focus? Let's say comparing who did what.
So if you go back to 2016, I think the NDC manifesto was their campaign was largely based on infrastructural development. And if you go back to the FES, Frederick Ebbe Foundation, right up there, I call it the infrastructure overhype. You see, they thought that they had done so much in infrastructure, unprecedented levels that they don't even have to campaign. The people will see themselves and will actually endorse them and retain them in power. But people came out, the opposition party actually came out with the slogan that we do not eat infrastructure. So basically, elections have to do with addressing the prevailing socio-economic circumstances of the people at the time. We know that infrastructure can actually directly or indirectly impact on the lives and livelihoods of the people. To some extent, infrastructure development indirectly benefits the people in terms of job creation, in terms of improving their livelihoods, but do not directly put money into their pockets. So when you are going to look at the whole fact that a lot of infrastructure development has been done, then people tend to ask you, how does that improve my life as a person? So you have constructed roads. I don't have a car to drive, even though you may pick 1212 and the 1212 will use that same better road in a manner of time that is less than if you were going to drive in a road that's not good. But some people, they usually will ask themselves, if you have built roads and you have done A, B, C, D, my major concern is how to get my child's school fees settled. My major concern is how to afford healthcare. My major concern is getting employment. My major concern is this. So how does infrastructure development directly translates into solving the personal problems that I have? So if you are looking at it in terms of infrastructure, yes, it is good at the border level to do those things, to be able to strengthen the economy, to be able to create easiness in terms of how long people can go to work without being in traffic. That can enhance productivity because they wouldn't be tired, they won't spend so much time on traffic. It connects to enhancing and creating job opportunities at the local level. People can open up shops and then put containers on the road that is done to start. Those things are indirect. They have an indirect impact on the people. But people usually want to see the direct impact, like instituting innovative social intervention policies that directly puts money into their pockets to start businesses, that directly feeds them, that directly empower them, create that kind of knowledge gap that is in the system, so that they'll be able to realize their potentials. So if you go back to 2016, Roland, I believe the level of infrastructure that the NDC put up there was enormous. But at the end of the day, the people rejected them. They voted against them. So you can replay what happened in 2016 to 2019, just 4 years back. And then people will start asking the same questions. So do we eat infrastructure? What role does infrastructure play directly in impacting on my life and my livelihood? It's a huge debate that will continue to play off. And depending on the side of power that you find yourself as a political party, you always have an antidote to some of the policies and programs and achievements that have been propagated by the other. So I just
Well, we've been joined by the president for Imani Africa, founder and president, Imani Africa. President in his own right, Franklin Cudjoe, has had a lot to say about assessment of government, and Imani Africa has been doing that over the years. And just by the close of the evening of yesterday, I got a queue on my WhatsApp platform as well, and straight away I had to go to his Facebook page, and the links were there. Now, let me ask you, Mr. Cudjoe, if you look at the analysis and then the observations that had been made by Imani Africa for the NDC and then the MPP, it presupposes that the discussions about infrastructure become important at the end of the day. How do we juxtapose that with the way we tend to make light that conversation, taking a cue from what transpired in 2016?
Sorry, the last part of your question wasn't clear. How do we do what? Sorry?
How do we water down? 2016, the NDC was proposing or selling the message of infrastructure to the voter population. The NPP at the time said it was not a big deal. Every government implements infrastructural development or projects. Now we know that the comparison is now being made from yesterday that this is a like for like. The better alternative is us. How do we then bring the issue to the center, knowing that apparently it is important after all?
Well, good morning to you and your producer. Good morning to my good friends on the show as well, respectable PhD holders, Nansatha and Mohammed. Look, it's an important conversation to have, and I think that the NPP have done themselves some good by now bringing the conversation to the level where the Vice President has had to speak specifically to the issues on infrastructure. You see, when they did the accounting to the people, I think the town hall meeting in Kumasi last year, we were quick to say that they undershot themselves in terms of the infrastructure achievements they have made. They counted just about 5 major projects. We counted 22. And we retained a value which was obviously based on our own metrics. These metrics, by the way, had been used for the NDC, so nobody can quarrel with it in terms of whether it's been fair or not. And we returned a value of almost 46.44%. So I'm happy that they've now woken up to the realization that it's becoming an important conversation to have, solely because the NDC has made a meal out of the whole political conversation. And I think it's to their credit. Indeed, they have shepherded this conversation, and the NPP is now following. So anybody who thinks that you can discount the infrastructure conversation, well, there you have it. But I understand when Dr. Is it Mohammed?
Ali Duseidu. Alidu Seidu.
Yes, Seidu. Sorry, Seidu. I was giving you another name. When Seidu, and sorry, Nansata, I didn't listen to you, so I was on a call with. So that's the only reason I don't know what you said, but I trust your judgment. Always, Nansata is a rare breed. As Dr. Seidu was saying, that at the end of the day, the impact of infrastructure must be felt by the people. So somehow the economy must reflect in the people's livelihoods as well. But it is also very useful that the conversation has now pivoted around the issues of value for money, which is another introduction for the debate on infrastructure. And I dare submit it should actually be the basis for every manifesto promise, because the point really is that after making all these promises, the next question somebody will ask is, apart from value for money, what exactly are you getting money for in order to prosecute this agenda? Right? Because the NDC can come back and say, well, you're welcome to the debate, but I used maybe 50-something billion to prosecute this agenda, which looks as if I did a bit better per the money skill, because we did 51.3% in infrastructure from 2012 to 2015. But you had the same period of 2016 to 2019, and while you are doing 44.6%, but you borrowed more. In fact, you borrowed probably 3 times, or a little under 3 times more. So we can begin to have those conversations. But I suspect that the value for money conversation is very useful. And I like Bawumia's analogy of the circle interchange as against the Pokwasi. I live in Pokwasi, so I can speak to that matter. I think it's fair to make comparisons, but I must also submit that constructing a roundabout in the central business district of Accra, where it was very difficult to navigate, the engineering is definitely different from the engineering in Pokwasi here. I mean, the Pokwasi where I live here, even though I live closer to the interchange, there isn't much in terms of businesses and milling of people. There's not so much infrastructure around. So yes, you can understand, but it's a very important conversation to have. And I'm sure the NDC can come back and say, well, you bring on the issue of value for money, but the EC shouldn't have done what they did and returned us to square one and wasted $120 million. Or Kearney GVGs, $89 million for no value return. Or Unipass, which is wasting everybody's time at the port for no value return and a lot of money. So these are identical twins, by the way. And I suspect that these conversations are very useful. But I want to have a conversation about where are you getting the money from? And beyond that, also, how do we maintain these infrastructure investment that we make? I would think it is important to look at the issue of private partnerships as well. Because truth be told, look at UGMC. It was a perfect public partnership approach, right? Which means that somehow, but for the controversy that dogged it, clearly speaking, these are investments that are likely to be recouped and managed properly because there's a private sector element of it. I'm not saying private people are saints, but you see, when you borrow commercially and you invest in infrastructure, it's important. Even if you borrow concessionally, as most government would like to borrow to undertake infrastructure projects, you still need to instill the element in you, the element of what's called sustainability, and management is critical. But I think, apart from value for money, where is the money coming from? Because it's crucial.
Now, Dr. Yakubu, the issue about communicating the messages and then trying to be on top of what the conversation should be for an electioneering like ours. What other variables tend to dilute it, knowing that now the two parties have put the conversation of infrastructure in the middle? What other variables influence the minds of the voter beyond just the main conversation of infrastructure?
Okay, so the issues include the ability of the candidates or that particular political party to listen. You know, when you give feedback on an issue, you state the cause of calling it a government fair, like a results fair, right? So you need to have the ability to listen back from the people that you have given this communication to as to what the issues are on the ground. As I already indicated, the barometer to measure the records lies with the electorate. And we're already hearing people saying, I live here, I have seen this is what is wrong with it, this is not what is wrong with it. I live here, I have not seen it, I don't know this is going on. So we have that. So you should be able to listen to that. The other issue is that perception is always fundamental to every campaign. You know, our voter population, if you take our demography of how we vote, the reasons for voting are as diverse as they come. Whereas in other countries, you can even measure and run models and get results way ahead and measure people's popularity and all that. Here, those scientific tools, they come into a big normative frame that we struggle, you know, every day to achieve. So perception, you know, and perception can be negative or positive. You know, that helps you to be able to get to, and the issue of the cancel culture that I said, because if you treat a particular issue with disdain or as unimportant, and you are coming back to the conversation, you should be able to raise different aspects of that discussion so that we are invested to go along with you. It shouldn't just be, yes, here is the infrastructure. No, raise other issues, you know, then we can go along with you so that your actors don't also distract from the messaging. You know, sometimes we forget that when you hype expectations, then you have put yourself in a place where the barometer to also measure you is quite high. You know, if nobody is the gold standard and you want to be the new gold standard, then you have put yourself in a place where we will come with different tools to also come and look at you. So your messaging for the people who will communicate back from your party is also critical. We don't need Dr. Bawumia to do the town hall meeting, and then when it comes to the discussions, which of course he will not be in a position to hold, but they have a machine that will do. Then we are hearing, you know, different things and some different kind of arguments. We need them to stay the course of what has been put out there and how this benefits Ghana and how this also propagates the message that they want to put forward, because it is fundamental to the campaign. Having said that, you should realize that the strategy of doing political comms at this level means that you have also looked at the demography of the voting population. Don't forget that we always have, you know, we the old bones who are quite set in our ways. Some people have made up their minds long ago how they are going to. They are not even listening to anything. You have those ones. Then you also have those that, you know, obey the wind, wherever it is. Some people even actually make up their mind on the day they go to do the ballot. Then you have those who are quite interested, you know, in the discussions to help them make up their mind. Then you have the millennials, you know, and then you have Generation Z. So there are different people and how you have to come up then with different messages. A town hall meeting, as we said, of this level, is at a strategic level where you get leverage in media to carry, but you can't depend on your party influencers to do the discussions and end up with very positive outcomes. So they will need to strategize in a way that they keep the momentum of what has been communicated, you know, and then have a very clear and simple messaging on why infrastructure is core, you know, to their campaigning this particular season. That is very important. And we don't want humor. You know, these times, nobody's laughing. They are very interesting times. So nobody is in a mood to laugh. So we don't want anybody to come and treat it, oh, yes, we have brought infrastructure. If you don't like it, you can do. No, we don't want that. And we don't want the work to be given to us. The onus rests on them to be able to prove to us. It is not only us. So once they are proving, then we also bring the validations or otherwise attestation, contestations from the base to meet them. We don't want them to say we have given it to you. So you go out there and you find out whether it's true or not. We know that that can happen because we all live in communities and we can see or not see what is going on. But we want them to also be able to argue out their points and prove that indeed this is what has been achieved, and it is quite important and critical to the campaign. So those are some of the variables that are emerging from this conversation.
And it's still about politics. I'm sure we can go on with this conversation further. But the three of you, great conversation so far, great input. And I wish you the best of the day, my brothers and sisters as well.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, Franklin. Okay. Dr. Saidu, thank you as well. But it's still the related conversations about politics. This time we decided to go to the Chuck Norris of the Ewutu Senya East constituency. She is the parliamentary candidate-elect for the NDC on December 7th. It's her picture that will be representing the NDC on the ballot paper. But we also do know that it's a bigger fight. And her main contestant is Hawa Kumsin. And we're talking about the battle for Ewutu Senya East constituency seats.
The accolades, they would come. It is
because I'm thinking you're two Iron ladies. So who will be the winner at the end of the day?
No, but you know, officially, it's been declared she's Rambo and I'm Chuck Norris.
Okay, so you are Rambo and she's Chuck Norris.
I can't be Rambo. She's Rambo. I'm Chuck Norris.
Okay, so you are
Rambo
Chuck Norris.
a bad person, yes.
And then and she's
Rambo.
She's Rambo,
yes.
And you are
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. Yes. It's now become a full fight, but just, you know, on the light-hearted political terrain. But for the full conversation, we're taking a break. When we come back, we have a great conversation with Na Koyo Okuno, the parliamentary candidate-elect for the NDC for the Ewutu Senya East constituency. Do stay with us.